Let me take you back in time. It's October 6th, 1993, and the Chicago Bulls are currently the defending NBA champions, just recently winning their third straight title, making themselves the first team to three-peat since Bill Russell's Celtics in the 1980s. Michael Jordan seemed as if he was at the height of his powers, coming off of an NBA Finals series where he just averaged 41 points per game. He was the most famous sports athlete in the entire world. But unfortunately, after the tragic passing of his father, James Jordan, just a few months earlier, Michael Jordan shook the basketball world by abruptly announcing his retirement, which was effective immediately. Obviously, this was overwhelmingly stunning news to the media, to the league office, and to basketball fans around the world. But after the dust settled, one of the biggest questions that remained was how this would affect the Chicago Bulls' playoff chances moving forward. The Bulls' 28-year-old superstar, Scottie Pippen, was now being thrust into a position that he had never been in before in his basketball career, and that was the role of a leader and as the best player on a professional team. As unfair as the burden of responsibility was, it was now Scottie Pippen's job to fill the shoes that were left empty by the legendary Michael Jordan. But he would be doing it with some extra help. And that offseason, the Bulls made several major acquisitions. One of those was the sharpshooting guard Steve Kerr, and the other was the versatile 6'10 small forward Tony Kukoc. The Bulls were coming off of a year where they had finished the regular season with a 57-25 record under the leadership of Michael Jordan. With MJ now out of the picture and only several new role players to replace him, the Bulls seemed to be a wild card heading into the 1993-94 regular season. Adjusting to a Jordan-less offense would be no easy task for Chicago, and because of this, the regular season got off to quite the rough start. By late November, it was appearing as if it was going to be a disastrous lottery season, as the Bulls were sitting 3 games below 500 in the midst of losing 6 out of their last 7 games. But it was right at this point that things finally started to click for Chicago, and first and foremost, finding his groove was the team's new leader, Scottie Pippen. Although he didn't become a league-leading scorer like some expected after the departure of Jordan, he did assert himself as a more well-rounded team leader, as he did a little bit of everything for Chicago. Over the course of the season, Scottie led his team in points, assists, and steals, while being second in rebounds and blocked shots. With Pippen operating as the point forward in Phil Jackson's triangle offense, the Bulls started executing beautifully on a nightly basis, quickly establishing themselves as a contender in the Eastern Conference. At the end of the regular season, they had a 55-27 record, which was good enough for the 3rd seed in a strong Eastern Conference. Scottie Pippen finished that season 3rd overall in the league MVP race, and at this point, many fans in the Windy City were starting to imagine a scenario that they once thought was impossible. The Bulls might just win their 4th straight championship even without Michael Jordan on the roster. As early May was approaching, Michael Jordan was figuring out his place on the baseball diamond, while his former team, the Chicago Bulls, were preparing for their postseason run. Their first-round matchup was against the 6th-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a Cavs team that they had met in the playoffs in the previous 2 seasons, and the Bulls won on both occasions. But with a talented star point guard at the helm for the Cavaliers by the name of Mark Price, they thought that this might finally be their opportunity to eliminate the Chicago Bulls out of the playoffs. But they couldn't have been more wrong. Scottie Pippen had a monster series, averaging 25 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. And as a result, Chicago swept the Cavs in just 3 games. For years, it was Michael Jordan who was known as the Cavalier Killer, as he was torching Cleveland on both ends of the court and hitting game winners time and time again. But now, the Bulls had just convincingly swept the Cavs without MJ. It goes without saying, the team's confidence was now at an all-time high. But waiting before them in the Eastern Conference semifinals was their greatest test yet. It was their rivals, the physically punishing New York Knicks. In the 2 years prior with MJ, the Bulls had had long playoff battles with the Knicks, that ended in 6 and 7 games. Historically, they had always been one of the toughest teams for Chicago to get through, so they believed if they were able to win this series, they would absolutely have what it takes to win the championship. What proceeded was an absolute dogfight. As expected, the series opened up being extremely physical and defensively minded, and after the first 2 games in New York, the Knicks had a 2-0 series lead. There was several famous, iconic plays that occurred in this series, and the first came in Game 3. To put it simply, this contest was absolutely wild, as a crazy brawl broke out that was started between the Knicks' Derek Harper and the Bulls' JoJo English. But despite the altercation clearing the benches and spilling over into the first row of the fans, this was still only an appetizer for the drama that was ahead. With less than 10 seconds left in the game, the Bulls had the ball and were up by 2 points, with the shot clock winding down. Entrusted to take this shot was the Chicago leading star, Scottie Pippen. But with a somewhat limited bag offensively, he was unable to create a good look and didn't get off a shot, as the shot clock expired with the ball in his hands. On the other end of the court, Patrick Ewing hit a running hook shot to tie the game at 102. Now the ball was going back to Chicago with 1.8 seconds left on the clock. A frustrated Scottie was looking for an opportunity to redeem himself with another attempt at a game-icing basket. The thing is, the Bulls head coach Phil Jackson had something else in mind. He decided to set up a play where the inbounds pass would go to Tony Kukoc, who had made several game winners throughout the regular season. Scottie was irate at Phil's decision, and in a protest, he refused to go back into the game altogether. Regardless, Kukoc went on to take the inbounds pass and swished the game-winning jumper, proving the fact that Jackson did know what he was doing. Despite the victory, the post-game locker room for the Bulls was described as incredibly tense and very somber. The Bulls center, Bill Cartwright, gave an emotional speech where he called out Scottie for quitting on the team. Now here's the thing, when you see this in the documentaries, and when you see the mainstream media break down this series, usually they make it seem like the series ended then and there, with Scottie's selfishness ultimately being the team's downfall. But that wasn't in fact the case, as Pippen and Chicago bounced back in a major way. The next game in the series was a must-win for Chicago, and Scottie came through mightily as he dropped 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists on 10 of 21 shooting. Thanks to this clutch performance, the Bulls won the game and tied up the series at 2 games apiece. The series was now returning to New York for a pivotal 5th game, and what ensued was once again a classic close battle. With just over 7 seconds left in the 4th quarter, the Bulls were up by 1 point, and the Knicks had the ball as they were inbounding the pass with a chance to take the lead. What happened then is simply one of the most controversial foul calls in NBA history, which Chicago fans referred to as their phantom foul. The elite perimeter shooter Hubert Davis catches the ball at the top of the key with a clean look at the basket, but Scottie Pippen closed ground quickly and contested the shot. And NBA referee Hugh Hollins blew the whistle right as the shot was being missed. When you look at the instant replay, you can see that Davis was trying to sell the contact before Pippen had reached him. And even then, it's hard to tell whether or not Pippen actually made any contact with him whatsoever. If the referee doesn't blow that whistle, then the Bulls win the game and take a commanding 3-2 series lead back to Chicago. And in Chicago for Game 6, the Bulls went on to dominate the Knicks, which included one of the greatest dunks in NBA history, Pippen's disrespectful slam on Patrick Ewing. But unfortunately, that's only a hypothetical, because the ref did blow that whistle, and Hubert Davis went on to hit 2 free throws to win the game for New York. Ultimately, the Knicks went on to win the series in the 7th game at home. But personally, I always felt like that game never should have happened in the first place. Yes, Pippen had that awful, selfish moment in that series, but sadly, he never got that true opportunity to redeem himself with a potential NBA Finals run. Because of this massive, history-shaping call by Hugh Hollins, this season for Scottie Pippen and the Chicago Bulls will remain as one of the biggest what-ifs in franchise history. So what do you guys think? Did the referee make the right call? And if the Bulls had won that series, do they end up winning the championship? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.